The Dallas Cowboys are once again at the center of the NFL conversation, but this time it's not just about one headline move. It's about a series of decisions that reveal a deeper strategy unfolding inside the organization. From trade rumors involving one of the league's most feared pass rushers, to surprising roster reshuffles along the defensive line, to new additions that could reshape the secondary and quarterback room, the Cowboys are quietly constructing the framework for what they hope will be a far more stable and competitive season. And when you start connecting the dots between these moves, a fascinating picture of Dallas' long-term plan begins to emerge. For a brief moment, it looked like Dallas might be involved in one of the biggest defensive trades of the offseason. The name circulating around the league was Max Crosby, the relentless edge rusher who has become the face of the Las Vegas Raiders defense. Crosby is a five-time Pro Bowler, one of the league's most disruptive pass rushers, and exactly the type of high-motor defender that could elevate any defense overnight. Reports indicated the Cowboys had shown interest in the idea of bringing Crosby to Dallas, potentially creating a terrifying pass rush duo alongside Micah Parsons. But as quickly as that possibility appeared, it vanished. According to league sources, the Cowboys are no longer expected to pursue a trade for Crosby at this time. The situation around Crosby became complicated after a previously arranged deal with the Baltimore Ravens collapsed during the physical evaluation stage. With Baltimore backing away due to medical concerns, Crosby ultimately remained in Las Vegas, and Dallas has now stepped away from the situation entirely. The decision to back off is interesting for several reasons. On the surface, it may simply reflect caution. Trading multiple first-round picks for a player who has raised medical questions during a physical is a risk that even aggressive front offices hesitate to take. But there may also be a deeper calculation at work. Dallas has spent the last year reshaping the defensive front, acquiring major interior players, and shifting resources toward building a different type of defensive identity. And that leads directly to one of the most significant developments involving the Cowboys' defensive line. The trade of defensive tackle Osa Odighizuwa. For several seasons, Odighizuwa was one of the most reliable pieces of the Cowboys' defense. Drafted in the same 2021 class as Micah Parsons, the UCLA product quickly became a consistent interior pass rusher. He never missed a game due to injury and steadily developed into a disruptive presence inside. In his contract year in 2024, he delivered career highs in pressures and quarterback hits, earning himself a 4-year extension worth $80 million. But the landscape around him changed dramatically. The Cowboys front office made aggressive moves to acquire two elite interior defensive linemen, Quinnen Williams and Kenny Clark. Suddenly, Dallas found itself with three high-priced defensive tackles occupying significant portions of the salary cap. From a pure talent standpoint, it was an embarrassment of riches. From a roster construction perspective, it was a financial puzzle. The arrival of new defensive coordinator Christian Parker complicated the situation even further. Parker's defensive philosophy emphasizes versatility, gap discipline, and players who can anchor the line against the run while still contributing in pass rush situations. Odighizuwa's skill set is built around penetration and quickness, thriving as a one-gap attacking three technique rather than the type of hybrid defensive lineman Parker prefers in a 3-4 system. In other words, the fit was becoming questionable. Eventually, Dallas made its decision. The Cowboys traded Odighizuwa to the San Francisco 49ers in exchange for the 92nd overall pick in the upcoming draft. That third-round selection instantly gives Dallas valuable day 2 capital, something the team lacked prior to the move. It also provides financial flexibility while solidifying the defensive tackle rotation around Williams and Clark. In the NFL, difficult roster decisions are often disguised as strategic realignment. This trade is a textbook example. Odighizuwa was a good player, but in a league defined by constant evolution, good players sometimes become expendable when the overall blueprint changes. And Odighizuwa wasn't the only defensive tackle moved out of Dallas. Shortly after the Odighizuwa trade became public, the Cowboys executed another smaller deal involving Solomon Thomas. Thomas, who joined Dallas in free agency last year, was sent to the Tennessee Titans in a 7th-round pick swap. The move only advanced Dallas 7 spots in the draft order, but it accomplished something else just as important: clearing space on a crowded defensive line. What we're seeing here is a defensive front being carefully recalibrated. The Cowboys are not simply collecting talent. They're reshaping the type of players they want in the trenches. And that philosophy appears to be extending into the secondary as well. One of the most impactful additions of the offseason so far is safety Jalen Thompson. Dallas signed Thompson to a 3-year deal worth $36 million, bringing in a player who quietly built one of the most consistent resumes among NFL defensive backs during his time with the Arizona Cardinals. Over 7 seasons in Arizona, Thompson accumulated nearly 600 tackles, 9 interceptions, and dozens of pass breakups. But statistics alone don't tell the full story of his value. Thompson is a versatile defender who can line up as a deep safety, play near the line of scrimmage, or cover the slot against receivers and tight ends. In modern NFL defenses that rely heavily on disguise and pre-snap movement, that kind of positional flexibility is extremely valuable. Perhaps even more important is Thompson's familiarity with the defensive concepts Dallas plans to run. His previous experience under secondary coach Ryan Smith means he arrives already fluent in many of the communication systems and coverage adjustments the Cowboys will rely on this season. That familiarity could be crucial because last year's Dallas secondary struggled with breakdowns in coverage communication. Explosive plays became a recurring issue, and the defensive backfield often appeared disorganized when offenses began using motion and complex route combinations. Thompson's presence is designed to stabilize that chaos. His instincts, tackling reliability, and leadership could quickly turn him into the quarterback of the Cowboys secondary. And interestingly, this signing has ripple effects beyond the defensive backfield. By securing a starting-caliber safety before the draft, Dallas has removed a major positional need from its list of priorities. The Cowboys now hold 2 extremely valuable first-round selections, and without the pressure to draft a safety, the front office gains flexibility to target premium positions like edge rusher, cornerback, or linebacker. Speaking of the linebacker position, there has been growing speculation about a potential trade target who could help fill that gap: Patrick Queen. Queen's career has been an intriguing roller coaster. Drafted in the first round by the Baltimore Ravens, he entered the league as an ultra-athletic but raw prospect. Over time, he developed into a dynamic linebacker capable of blitzing, covering, and chasing down ball carriers across the field. His breakout season in Baltimore even earned him second-team All-Pro recognition. But after leaving the Ravens and joining the Pittsburgh Steelers, Queen struggled to replicate that level of performance. His production declined, and his grading metrics dropped significantly, raising questions about whether his earlier success was system-driven. Still, some analysts believe Queen could thrive again in a different scheme. His speed, range, and physical style of play align with the type of linebacker Dallas appears to be seeking under Christian Parker. If the trade cost remains low, bringing Queen to Dallas could represent a classic change of scenery gamble. And if you're enjoying this deep dive into the Cowboys' evolving roster strategy, this is the perfect moment to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our next breakdown of the biggest moves shaping the NFL landscape. While the defense undergoes transformation, there are also subtle developments happening on the offensive side of the ball. One of them involves the quarterback room behind Dak Prescott. The Cowboys recently agreed to terms with Sam Howell, a quarterback who has quietly become one of the NFL's most traveled young passers. Howell originally entered the league as a 5th-round pick of the Washington Commanders and eventually earned a full season as their starting quarterback in 2023. That year he led the league in pass attempts, but also threw 21 interceptions, illustrating both his aggressive mindset and his inconsistency. Since then, Howell has bounced from Washington to Seattle, then Minnesota, and most recently Philadelphia before landing in Dallas. His arrival immediately creates competition behind Prescott. Joe Milton III currently holds the backup role, but Howell's presence could lead to a training camp battle or even open the door for a future trade involving Milton. Quarterback depth rarely becomes a headline story in March, but it can become critically important when injuries inevitably strike during the season. Meanwhile, the Cowboys' offensive line remains one of the most intriguing questions facing the team. Last season's numbers tell a troubling story. Injuries forced Dallas to constantly shuffle its offensive line combination, resulting in one of the lowest continuity scores in the entire league. The starting five linemen played just 275 snaps together out of a possible 1,186. That level of instability can devastate offensive rhythm, and statistical studies have shown that teams with low offensive line continuity tend to score fewer points and commit more penalties. In simple terms, offensive line success is often about chemistry as much as talent. Linemen must anticipate each other's movements, communicate seamlessly against defensive stunts, and trust that the player next to them will execute his assignment. When the lineup changes every week, that trust disappears. Dallas hopes that improved health will naturally restore that continuity. The projected starting five of Tyler Guyton, Tyler Smith, Cooper Beebe, Tyler Booker, and Terrence Steele offers plenty of raw talent, including multiple first-round picks. If that group can stay on the field together, the Cowboys believe the offensive line could stabilize quickly. But the front office is also exploring depth solutions. The departure of versatile lineman Brock Hoffman to the Pittsburgh Steelers removes a reliable backup who started 14 games over the last 2 seasons. Hoffman's exit creates an opportunity for younger linemen to compete for reserve roles, but it also increases the urgency to build depth through the draft. Special teams also received attention with the return of pass rusher Tyrus Wheat. While Wheat's role will likely remain limited to special teams and rotational defensive snaps, moves like this are part of the quiet roster construction that often determines whether a team has the depth to survive a long NFL season. Another contract situation worth monitoring involves kicker Brandon Aubrey. Aubrey has been one of the most accurate kickers in football, and his value is becoming clearer as the market continues to evolve. After Houston signed Ka'imi Fairbairn to a deal averaging $6.5 million per year, the benchmark for elite kickers has officially moved. Dallas currently holds leverage thanks to the second-round tender placed on Aubrey, but if negotiations for a long-term extension accelerate, that new market figure could push the price higher than expected. Taken together, all of these developments reveal a franchise carefully adjusting its roster puzzle piece by piece. Some moves, like the Odigizua trade, generate headlines. Others, like signing depth players or adjusting contract structures, quietly influence the team's long-term flexibility. But the ultimate question remains the same one that has followed the Cowboys for decades. Will these decisions finally translate into postseason success? Dallas has consistently fielded talented rosters, yet the team has struggled to convert regular season potential into playoff breakthroughs. The changes happening now suggest an organization determined to address weaknesses in structure, scheme, and roster balance. The defense is becoming more versatile. The secondary is gaining stability. The defensive line is being reshaped to match a new scheme. And the offense hopes improved health along the line will restore its rhythm. If those pieces fall into place, the Cowboys could enter the upcoming season with a roster that is not just talented, but properly aligned. And if you want to stay ahead of every Cowboys roster move, trade rumor, and draft strategy discussion, make sure you subscribe and join the conversation below with your thoughts on whether these changes will finally push Dallas back into Super Bowl contention.